Here we are, Chevra. We are in the Tanya. We're speaking about the origin of your soul. This is going to be part 2. And like we mentioned, it's a bit mature content. So going back to what we mentioned the last year is that the seed of the child does not just originate in that lower place. The seed of the child originates in the mind of the father. And at that time that the husband and wife are intimate, that seed is originating in his thoughts. And according to the thoughts of the father at that time, whether they're holy thoughts, and these are things when you guys become engaged, we'll talk about more. By the way, when you become engaged, we're going to introduce you to like a whole new part of Torah. It's amazing when you see a groom who gets engaged and all of a sudden like we start learning certain things. He's like, is this you guys were hiding this from me the whole time? I said, yeah, it's like a new club here. Like a secret, we take one of the books off the shelf, the entire shelf turns around, and we enter like this special, hallway with the torches on the side, and we introduce a whole new dimension of learning. And so we'll talk about more of those details at that time. But essentially, and there's a lot that's spoken about that, but essentially, for our purposes, it's enough to say that the husband should have holy thoughts, positive, holy, and not just that he's an animal trying to, as described in the Gemara, like a lion trying to devour its prey, Hashem Yirachem, just to satisfy some base desire. But it should be an act of communication, of love. Essentially, our tradition is that everything should be dark. One of the reasons is because when there's light, it's the idea of now there's two. When it's light, I can see you. But the idea of dark means that two become one. There's a dissolving of two becoming one. Yeah.
Is it just on the woman's thought also, since half the DNA?
It is, but more so, it's the husband, because he's giving that vision, he's giving that seed. And we can understand this a little bit. I'm going to give you an analogy of what it means that the origins of the seed come from the father's mind. Imagine you have an idea. You have an idea that you want to build a house. We mentioned this a little bit before in another context. You want to build a house. So the house starts as an idea. You take that idea through a series of steps, and you call the contractors and you make these decisions to get the land, and then you start putting bricks down, and you take something which really began as a concept, and then after 6 months of work, what do you see? Lo and behold, in front of you, a house. So the house had its origins though in your thought. The house had a spiritual origin, right? Which means I see the house here, but where did that house come from? Well, you'll say it came from the bricks, and it came from the trees, and it came from the cement. It's true, but the concept of it came from something more spiritual, came from a thought. That can better let us understand how a child, who is also now a being, comes from the thought of the father. This is very important to meditate on this and really start to think that so much, and basically everything that we do, is starting from thought. You do something because there's some thought that's there that triggers, that then passes down through the senses, and then actually is completed with the action. But it starts whether you're conscious or not of it. Interestingly, the Sfarim speak that at the end of a person's life, everything that he manifested, everything that he did, is essentially a one long actualization of all of the things that he was thinking about throughout the course of his life and looking for and yearning for. And therefore, you basically see, you look at your life at the end of 120 years, and it will be a sequence of all the things that I was yearning for and thinking about that I just manifested over the course of my lifetime. And therefore, that's why, as a major part of what we talk about in Chassidus, is to learn to yearn for good things. Learn to tap my mind into positive direction, because it's going to start manifesting. There's a lot of these New Age movies and stuff like this, like what is it? What the bleep do we know? And the power of manifestation, and a lot of this stuff. It's all rooted in Kabbalistic thinking, that what you think about and what you yearn for, what you desire, you will start manifesting. The Gemara says it in this language, the way that you want to go, Hashem will push you in that direction. And we see that even if someone wants to do something not positive, one example we find is from Bilam. What did Bilam want to do? Who knows? Curse the Jews. And what happened? He was on his way, got up early in the morning, got into his donkey, did some funny business with the donkey. We don't want to talk about that too much. Sadly, people are still involving themselves in those things. And Hashem Yirachem, Hashem should help us tremendously. And he was on his way to curse the Jews. What happened on the way? The angel wouldn't let him, kept pushing him off. What did he do? Blame the donkey. Pushes him off again. Why was he being pushed off? Of course, Hashem was trying to help him. What you want is not a good thing. I want to push you in another direction. Did he receive the message from Hashem? No, he kept pushing forward, and Hashem said, I allow people to choose their destiny. I allow free will to run its course. I will try to help you, but if you want this, if you're focused on this, I will allow this to come forth. And he did curse, but then Hashem flipped it into brachas. So good, right? In the end. But he could have willingly blessed the Jews. It's amazing. It was going to come that way anyways. If he would have just chosen it, like the famous Gemara. I have to say this. It says in the end of days, the famous Gemara in Avodah Zarah, the beginning of Avodah Zarah. It says, at the end of days, Hashem is going to get all the nations of the world together, and He's going to say, I want you all to line up. I want to give you a reward. Whoever did good, come. I have a reward for you. It's a crazy Gemara. So, who shows up? Everybody. God's handing out Xboxes. I'm in. PS5, is it 5 nowadays? What's the one where it's like virtual reality, like an octopus on your head?
It's not as cool as
PS5 is the thing nowadays? Really? Are you in it?
No.
What's the one that's the virtual reality?
It's also called VR.
VR?
Yeah.
VR?
Oculus.
Oculus, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Oculus Prime? Oculus. It's like this like squid or something is like on your brain. You know, a lot of what they're trying to do, the forces that are not the good ones, is to essentially pull us into a virtual reality, like Ready Player One type stuff, and make that world better than the real world. And essentially people won't be engaged in the real world anymore. That's very sad, because we're human, we're pro-life. We like actually hanging out with human beings, not just Oculus.
That's everything we do, though. We do to escape from life, right?
No, not according to the Torah.
No.
According to the Torah, we don't escape. We want to be in life.
Of course, I'm saying like addiction.
That's what we're talking
It's
about.
not just VR, it's like drugs, everything.
100%. The VR stuff is just pushing it in even more.
You see it
obvious one.
Yeah.
Obvious
It's the most obvious. Literally, life is way too, painful, challenging, depressing. But I just put this thing on, and then there's a pretty girl, and she likes me. And wow, life got. I'm not leaving here. Just intravenous the soup and the juice, and just that's way better. And then I take the thing off, and like my kids are screaming, my wife is screaming. This Oculus, yeah. But I need you, Samuel, to take out the garbage. Ooh, Oculus. Everyone loves me, I'm the man, I'm like rich, I got this place. That's where things are, okay. We don't believe in that. We believe in you face reality and you become great through standing up to challenges in reality. So back to our Gemara. So the Gemara says that the whole world will come for the reward. So Everyone comes, they said, look, we did all these nice things. And Hashem said, you did them for yourself. They said, no, we did them to support God in the world, to support Yisrael. We did them for you, Hashem. And Hashem says the famous verse, Shaitim Shabba'ilam, you fools. You fools. Shaitim Shabba'ilam. You did it all for yourself. You made the marketplaces for yourself. You built the bathhouses not to beauty yourself for a Shabbos. You did it for yourselves, etc., etc. So the Brisker Rav says famously, he says, why doesn't it say you liars? Why does it say you fools? Hashem responds to them, you fools. It should have said, you guys are lying. We did it for you, didn't do it for me. Says the Brisker Rav. Why does Hashem call them fools? Because everything a person really does is ultimately going to be to help Hashem in his mission. You're fools because if you would have had that in mind, you would have been part of the journey. But you didn't have that in mind, you're fools. It's anyways coming. It's all for the ultimate purpose of revealing Hashem. If you would have only had it in mind, then I'll give you a reward. Now get out of here to the line on the left. You don't want to go left, my friends. You want the line on the right. Right, it's chesed, left is, we won't talk about right now. So everything that we will manifest is or originating in our thought, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and that's why so much of what we're going to learn about in Tanya is purifying our consciousness and going into our super psychic pre-conscious state as well, which is essentially called your soul. If you can tap into your godly soul, then you're going to start manifesting everything that you really want. Now, what does this mean to us as far as where our souls come from? Let's go back into the depth of the analogy. It says that the Jewish soul comes from God's thought. Now, when we talk about souls coming from the thought of the Father, why is that important? Because is the Father and his thought deeply intertwined? Let's say it differently. Are you and your thoughts pretty deeply connected?
You are.
What's more connected? You and your actions, you and your speech, or you and your thoughts? What's the deepest connection to you?
Oh, so this isn't defining you, right?
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Definitely your speech is more defining than your actions. A person could do one thing, he could mean something else, or he could do something by accident. His speech is more refined. His thoughts is very deeply connected to him. You're actually deeper than your thoughts. Your thoughts are like clothing, but they're the most inner layer of clothing of your soul.
And the Yetzer Hara can bring bad thoughts.
Excellent. The Yetzer Hara can bring you bad thoughts, and it does quite often. Like the monkey mind, it chats away and says, "You're not this, you're like that." We're going to learn how to just observe those thoughts and not identify. A lot of the meditation we did when we went to the wadi, on the hike, was looking at and letting the thoughts run into the river and allowing myself to not be bound up with my thoughts, being able to see that my thoughts are separate, but they're still very intimate. They're still deep. I would say it like this. If you want to get to know a girl that you want to marry, do you look at the way she acts? If I see the way that she acts, will I know her? I'll know a lot. If I see the way she speaks, I could know a lot more because there's a certain intimacy of how a person speaks. But imagine I could know what she thinks. You know, it's always a cute thing when people are dating and I was just thinking that, like, or I knew what you knew what I was thinking. It's like, oh, it shows that there's, wow, you start thinking like each other. It's a human experience that a person feels, wow, and you know what I'm thinking about. It's very intimate. But there's something even deeper than that called the soul itself. But the thoughts are pretty deep. They're not completely you, but they're deep. They're the most inner layer separating between your soul and as your soul is expressing out. Okay? So when the Father is thinking at that moment, he's really giving something very intimate of himself into the child. But now, what does it mean that when God thinks the soul, that now the soul goes down and becomes part of us? It means that God, when he thinks, is his thoughts like us, that with me and my thoughts, they're a little bit separate. Is God and his thoughts the same as me and my thoughts?
No.
So for this, look back inside your Tanya. Here the Tanya goes one step further. When a God thinks, Di'ihu chakim, when God thinks, he is a chacham. We call God, this is based on the Zohar that was written by Eliyahu Hanavi. When God thinks, he thinks, v'loi b'chachma yediyah, but not the chachma, not the thoughts, not the wisdom that you know. Ella, this is the important line, it's based on a Rambam. Rambam is really in alignment with the Zohar. Elohu v'chachmasoi echad. Hashem and his, let's call it thoughts for now, is one. It's not God and his thoughts. Because God is not two. God is one. You can't separate God. So there's God and his thoughts, but they're not two. They're one. When it comes to me, is me and my thoughts. When it comes to God, there can't be God. It's just one. There's only God. Ain't oid milvado. There's only God. So that's what the Rambam means. Elohu v'chochmasai echad. Hashem and his thoughts are one. Which means, when God thinks and now gives life, he conceives, so to speak, that soul, the godly soul, what is the godly soul? It's essentially Hashem's thoughts, but Hashem and his thoughts are one. So it's essentially God himself, because Hashem and his thoughts are one. We're going to explain this more next time. K'may shekasav, a Rambam, like the Rambam says, Shehu amada, v'hu ha'yodea, v'hu ha'yediyah atzma. And when it comes to Hashem, there's the power to know something, there's the object of knowing, and the one who's knowing. Meaning to say, when it comes to me, how do I know this is a plastic cup? There's the cup itself, the object of what's known. There's me, the knower. And then there's a power that I have called the ability to know something. There's me, the power of knowing. That's two different things. And then the object of the knowledge. Those are three different things. When it comes to God, there's creation, and the power to know creation, and it's all one thing. Try to wrap your head around that one. The answer is we can't fully, but we can try. And we can actually get to a certain degree, like the Rambam says. You'll never fully grasp this, but by the Rambam saying you'll never fully grasp this, does it mean we can grasp it a little bit? And you should try to grasp it? Yeah. There's God, creation, and the power to know the creation. Is that one thing with us? There's me, there's the item, and then there's the power to know something, the faculty of knowing, and those three different things. When it comes to God, though, there's God, the creation, and him knowing the creation, it's all one. It means Hashem and his creation and the ability to know the creation is one thing. That's enough to think about for the next 120 years, guys. You guys work on that a little bit. It's very profound. We're going to develop this more the next time, how God thinks. And the more we can understand that Hashem and his thoughts are bound as one, we'll see how deep Hashem and our soul is, because we come out of his thoughts, which is one with Hashem, which means our soul is so deeply bound with Hashem himself. We should be zeh to feel this chevra. Amen. A good Shabbos. Shabbos.